Okay, let's unpack this. This deep dive addresses one of the most common and, frankly, kind of confusing dilemmas in traditional spiritual practice. You've laid out a beautiful ceremonial offering, the roast meats, the perfect fruits, all the sweets, and then once the ceremony's done, the table is full of leftovers. Is it actually safe or uh, even auspicious to eat that food?
It's a huge question, yeah, and it's rooted in really deep tradition. The answer, well, it's surprisingly complex because it involves this whole invisible energy exchange thing.
Right.
So today we're drawing on sources that look at the intersection of practical life and these spiritual concepts, common in Thai and Chinese practices. We're specifically trying to understand what happens to the food itself on an energetic level.
And the sources, they make it pretty clear that the safety, it isn't really about the food's physical state, is it? Like whether it's gone bad.
Not primarily, no.
It's more about decoding these two specific energy concepts, Osha and Qi. These seem to dictate what energy's been taken out and, maybe more importantly, what energy's been left behind in the physical stuff.
Exactly. That's the core of it. Our mission here is to understand that unseen transfer, that spiritual sustenance moving between realms, and also, crucially, why our sources pretty unanimously recommend shifting your whole focus away from the material offering itself towards generating and dedicating spiritual capital, what many traditions call merit, or bende kanmo.
Okay.
It's presented as basically the safest and most beneficial strategy in the long run.
Shifting from, managing energetic risk to generating spiritual capital.
Yeah.
That sounds like a major upgrade, a must-do almost. So let's start right there with the basics, Osha and Qi. What exactly is being consumed when these offerings are put out?
Okay, so when offerings are placed on the altar, it doesn't matter if it's a big boiled chicken, traditional pastries, or just some fruit. The sources explain that subtle life forms, spirits or beings in finer, non-physical realms, they come to receive the essence of the meal. They aren't interested in the physical stuff, the mass that we see.
So they're not eating the actual sugar or protein. It's more like the vibrational content,
Yeah.
the energy signature.
Precisely. That vibrational content, that's what's referred to as Osha, or in the Chinese tradition, Qi. It's defined as the subtle flavor or the essence of energy within the food. And here's where it gets really critical. The energetic makeup of the recipient determines the outcome for you, the worshiper.
Wow. Okay, so the spiritual level, the hierarchy of whoever receives the offering actually changes the nature of the physical leftovers.
It absolutely does. The sources outline two very distinct categories. First, you've got high-level spirits like gods or devas. These beings, they have immense merit, high virtue. When they take the offering, they consume only the pure Osha.
Pure stuff.
Yeah, and because of their elevated state, they do not leave negative energy behind. Instead, the sources say the remnants become imbued with auspicious energy. Blessings, basically.
So that's where the term auspicious items comes from. If the offering went to a high deity, those leftovers should actually be eaten by the worshiper to get those residual blessings, like a divine vitamin shot.
That's the idea, exactly. But then we have the second category, low-level spirits. These are often described as suffering or hungry entities, sometimes called hungry ghosts or pretas. These beings are desperately lacking in merit and sustenance. They consume the crude Osha.
Crude Osha. Okay, what's the risk there? Why is that different?
Well, the sources state these spirits are in a state of deep suffering. It's defined by intense hunger, spiritual lack, When they partake, it's believed they can sometimes leave behind the very essence of that suffering, what's called the energy of hunger or impurity in the leftover physical food.
Oof. So if a person then eats that energetically tainted food, they risk absorbing that lingering negative or maybe depleted energy.
That's the traditional concern, yes.
Yeah.
They might absorb that deficiency.
That makes the old warning make perfect sense then. Don't eat offerings given to low-level spirits. The food hasn't physically spoiled, but it's been energetically, compromised or depleted.
It's seen as a complete energetic transaction. So, yeah, looking at this model, you can see why this whole question is so central to traditional practice. It's not just about waste.
Okay, this model, this energy exchange, it immediately brings up a huge, unavoidable, really practical question. And it feels like the core problem for anyone doing this. When you're standing there in front of a statue at some local shrine, how on earth can you be certain that the entity taking your offering is really a high-level benevolent deva
Mhm.
and not, some lower-level spirit just pretending, impersonating one to get regular meals, basically.
That is the core dilemma. And the source material, it's surprisingly honest about this. It basically admits that in spiritual matters like this, you just can't verify it. There's no external scientific tool available to measure the spirit or give you that certainty.
Right. No cosmic ID scanner.
Exactly.
So, if you can't verify the receiver, the whole system of relying only on material offerings seems to carry this built-in systemic risk. So what's the strategic pivot? What do the sources recommend we do instead?
The strategic shift they propose is actually quite elegant and much more secure. Since you cannot reliably verify the receiver, you change the gift. You change what you're offering.
Change the gift, not the recipient, because you can't know the recipient.
Precisely. The recommendation is to shift your focus to a gift that benefits all realms, universally and safely, no matter who the recipient actually is, spiritually speaking. And that universally safe and beneficial gift is merit.
So the goal isn't necessarily to stop acknowledging the spiritual realms altogether,
No, not at all.
but to fundamentally alter the transaction, to change the focus, as the sources say, from stressing food to stressing merit. We move from managing the risk of energetic contamination and leftovers to actively generating this high-grade spiritual currency.
Exactly that. It just removes that whole risk factor and ideally creates a positive feedback loop for everyone involved.
Okay, let's really dig into how this works in practice then. Because this shift to merit as the universal currency, this seems like where the real security upgrade lies. What are the first practical steps someone should take?
Well, first, the foundation needs to be solid. Spiritual guidance generally suggests viewing the triple gem, that's the Buddha, the Dharma or teachings, and the Sangha, the community, as your most secure refuge. The idea is that no single deity on their own can truly deliver you from all suffering, so your ultimate refuge needs to be something more fundamental.
Understood. That makes sense as a base. But let's talk mechanics. If I used to spend, say, a decent chunk of money on a really elaborate food offering, how do I actually convert that material wealth into this superior spiritual energy, into merit?
Right. So we shift that wealth, that intention, through two main actions, according to these sources. Action one is straightforward: charity. The sources suggest taking the money you would have spent on expensive physical offerings and redirecting it towards concrete acts of kindness and support. Things like donations to temples or monks, supporting hospitals or medical care, directly helping people who are poor or struggling. This generates tangible merit right here, benefiting this realm first.
Okay, that seems very practical, very beneficial, easy to grasp. But the sources also mention something else. They claim there's a type of merit that's even purer than charitable giving. That sounds a bit counterintuitive. How can giving money to, say, save a life be seen as less pure than something else?
Yeah, it does sound odd at first. But that brings us to action two: mental refinement. The text described generating merit internally through your own mind and actions, specifically by focusing on practicing morality, banakama, leading an ethical life, and, very importantly, engaging in meditation.
Morality and meditation.
Yeah. Right. The rationale seems to be that charitable giving, while wonderful, is still rooted in an external material transaction. You're giving something physical or money which represents it. But purifying your own mind through moral discipline and meditation, that's an internal action. It's merit generated without any material input, without attachment to outcome in the same way. That's why it's seen as fundamentally pure, more potent.
That connection is really key, isn't it? The deepest form of merit isn't something you buy. It's something you cultivate inside yourself through discipline.
That's exactly the idea. And look, regardless of how you generate the merit, whether through charity or through meditation and morality, the next step is absolutely essential. It's dedication.
The formal act of dedicating the spiritual energy.
Yes, absolutely. After you perform any act of merit, give charity, observe precepts, meditate, you need to formally dedicate that spiritual energy to your intended recipients. You consciously, maybe even verbally, transfer the spiritual capital to the deities you honor, the spirits at the shrine, maybe ancestors you want to help. That formal dedication is what makes the merit available to them, so to speak.
Okay, so why is this merit considered so much better than just offering food, beyond just being, cleaner or less risky?
Well, the sources call it the universal currency, sir. Think of it like spiritual money that's accepted everywhere. It's usable, it's beneficial, and all the different realms that can perceive spiritual energy. This makes the whole transaction reliable, regardless of who the recipient actually turns out to be. And its benefits are perfectly tailored, whether they're high-level beings or low-level ones.
Okay, break that down. How does dedicated merit benefit the high-level gods, the divas? They don't need anything from us, right?
Right? They don't need our material energy like food essence, but they do rejoice. The term is hits again. They rejoice in the merit we create through good deeds. When they witness and appreciate our virtuous actions and the merit we dedicate, it's said to actually increase their own divine assets. They're all in a fit. It makes them happy, essentially. And this encourages them to protect us with even greater compassion and energy. It builds a really strong, positive spiritual connection.
Okay, that's fascinating. A positive feedback loop. And what about for those suffering entities we talked about, the low-level spirits, the predators, or hungry ghosts? What does merit do for them?
This is maybe the most compassionate part of the whole strategy. For these beings, receiving dedicated merit is often described in the text as their only way to potentially alleviate their suffering or even transition out of that painful predator realm. We're giving them the exact spiritual food they desperately need for relief and maybe even upward movement, but without us having to take the risk of energetic contamination from eating leftovers. It's clean, safe, and directly helpful for them.
Wow. That really does sound like a profoundly better outcome for everyone involved. It stabilizes the whole spiritual relationship and kind of empowers the worshiper, gives them agency. Which leads us nicely into, okay, how do we apply this to living an auspicious life right now?
Well, the core lesson here isn't really prohibition, it's about balance and focus. The sources are quite clear. Making material offerings isn't inherently wrong, especially, for cultural reasons or family traditions. But the focus has to be right.
So if someone still wants to do the traditional thing, lay out the offerings for good fortune, say the 5 kinds of fruit, that's common. What's the necessary final step, the ritual, to ensure safety and be able to reclaim the food?
Okay, 2 things. First, you have to make sure that active offering food is secondary. Your primary focus should always be on generating and dedicating merit. Then, when the ceremony part is over, you must verbally bid farewell to the offerings. The term is hanankama. You're explicitly asking permission to bring the physical items back, maybe to consume them as auspicious items or even thinking of them as spiritual medicine. That verbal act acknowledges the energetic exchange is complete. You're reclaiming the physical item, ideally under the banner of the auspiciousness left behind by the high-level beings you intended to honor.
And the ultimate safety net, the core principle, is always generating that internal capital, that merit.
Absolutely. The final connection the sources make is that creating merit is fundamentally about generating excellent internal ki for yourself, good energy within you. This accumulated merit acts like a powerful shield, abalana, against negative influences or energies. It is your true internal wealth. I got the only wealth that truly follows you everywhere, through every life, every circumstance.
So what does this all really mean for you, the listener? It seems to mean shifting your whole spiritual energy management strategy. Moving away from worrying about physical food waste and potential energetic contamination towards actively accumulating this spiritual capital, this merit, that benefits you and every being you intend to help, safely and universally. It's really an upgrade from basic risk management to actual spiritual wealth generation.
Nicely put, yes. We've unpacked the difference between pure Osha and crude Osha, wrestled with the dilemma of the uncertain receiver, and landed on the secure strategy, shifting focus entirely to generating merit, the universal currency.
And we definitely noted that profound claim from the sources that practicing morality and meditation generates merit that's considered pure, maybe even more potent than any amount of physical charitable giving.
Which leaves us with a final thought, really a question for you to mull over. If the ultimate, cleanest, most powerful form of good ki or positive energy is actually generated internally through your own mental refinement, your ethical discipline, how much time and energy are you currently dedicating to building that potent internal wealth? Especially compared to the energy you might spend acquiring external good or even managing external rituals. Just something to consider. Where does your most valuable spiritual investment truly lie?